if you've stuck around for this long, congratulate yourself. This is gonna be the last exercise of this course, and you guys are gonna be making the microscopic pen render. So buckle up tight, download the file from the description, and let's begin. Alrighty guys, if you have downloaded the file, this is what it's going to be looking like, and also you need to find some reference images for the texturing as well, like I have over here. So how are we going to be approaching the texturing for this project? It's pretty simple. First we're going to be making the basic materials, then we're going to be adding in the details, because it's going to get really complicated if we try to do this all at once. So this is how we're going to be doing it. So first of all, let's go into our render view. I'll select the biggest part possible, which is going to be the body of the pen. I'll make a new material, delete the universal one, and I'll search for the specular material. And let me just connect it in. Perfecto. I'll just add in a tad bit of roughness. That looks good. Fake shadows, fake alpha. And now we need to come over here to our index of refraction, and I'll put it to 1.33. And I will reduce the roughness a bit. 0, 5, 0, 2. 5 was good. Okay, we got that. Now, what we need to do is we'll scroll all the way down over here towards where it says medium. Now we're going to be adding in a medium into it. Why? Because we want our light to react properly as if it's a real acrylic. So let's just quickly do that. I'll go to medium and I'll search for random walk. For the albedo, I'll choose slightly bluish, just like that. And the density should be 500. I'll increase this. 500 was a bit too much. I'll make it 200. Okay, 200 looks really good for this one. And I'll decrease the color just a tad bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we will make a material for this. So let's just make a new material, and it has a little bit of subsurf, so we are going to be adding that as well. I'll take my universal and replace it with a specular material. Then I'll come down towards medium, go to random walk again, rank them all the way up, and I'm gonna be giving it a density of 5000. I'll take the color, just like that. Fake shadows, fake alpha. I'll just make it a tad bit darker. And I'll increase the roughness. I'll make it a bit more accurate towards the color by adding some reds, just like that. Now, before we move on, what we are going to be doing is making the basic texture for this part and the tip. So let's just do that. This is going to be a pretty simple gold color, so let's just do that. I'll delete the universal material and add in the metallic material. So let me just connect it in. I'll search for RGB color, make it yellowish, Just like that, plug it in towards our specular color. Just like that. I'll increase the saturation a bit. And this is gonna be pure silver. So let's just make a new material and add in metallic material. And let's just connect it in. So that's like the bare bone basic setup. Actually, we forgot to make the texture for the inner part over here. So let's just quickly do that. So I'll select this, make a new material, and make it dark blue. Just like that. Alt H. Over here, Alt H. Okay, so this is like the bare bone setup that we could make for the texture. Now we need to add in the details. But before that, let's just save the file and let's add the paper texture over here. And for that, we are going to be going towards Blender Kit. And this is a good example of how you can use Blender Kit with Blender Octane. So what you need to do is come over here towards your Blender Kit, go to search filters. You don't need to work with procedural. Believe me, it's not going to work. You need to go to texture based, and now if you search, let's say paper, all of these textures that you are going to be getting are going to come with PBR textures, and that's the thing that we need to work with. So we are going to be using this paper texture over here. So let me just place it on the ground, and if we come over here, the only thing that we'll have to delete is this mix texture. So I'll directly plug it in and delete this. And now if I come over here to my material, scroll all the way down towards converters, I'll just convert the material. And this has two options. Either you could, if you have like multiple materials, you could go for all in the selected object. Or if you want to convert everything and you know it's a PBR texture with a simple setup like this, you could always go for materials in this scene. There's also another plugin that I'm going to be making a video on really soon. So yeah, stay tuned for that as well. But for this situation, only the selected material. We'll select this and press OK. Now, a little bit of manual labor is going to be required. So we'll take our UV transform and we will connect this to all three of these. Now I'll just rotate this. Just like that. Okay, lovely. So this is like the bare bone setup that we could make for the textures. Now we are going to be adding in the details. We're going to be adding the scratches, the fingerprints, just to make it real. So let's just quickly do that. So let's start off with our acrylic pen over here. If we come back over here and we isolate it, just to get a better view, what we need to do is first of all add in some scratches. And for that, what we are going to be doing is add in a scratch node. And yeah, there's a whole node for scratches over here in Blender Octane. So let's just do that. And before we do anything, let's just apply the scale. And I'll open up UV transform and projection because we are going to be needing it. As we can see, we have a small error on the UV side of things on this pen. So let's just fix that. We'll go into edit mode, select everything, press U, unwrap, Smart UV project. Let's just do that. And we still have a few errors going around, which we are going to be fixing with the help of chaos texture. So let's just do that. And let's see what we got. We got the layer count, how many layers of scratches do we need, and it can go pretty deep, up until like 10 different layers. Then we have curl, how curly should be, and we're going to be adding in like micro amounts of it. Okay, that actually looks pretty good for what we want. What if we add more layers? Okay, that actually looks pretty good for our need right now. Could also change the frequency just a tad bit. I think we got what we needed. So let's just plug it in towards our bump. And now I'll slowly start to increase it so you could see better. You see? But obviously, no pen is that scratched up in real life. So we need to take this as our reference over here. There are scratches on it, but they're barely noticeable. So what's the amount that we need to put in? It's going to be minus 0.001. Now the scratches are over there, but you can barely see them. But hey, if you want them to be more visible, instead of 0.001, you could take it up to 0.005. Or, no, that's still too much. 0.002. Yep, that's like the max amount that you should go. Okay, let's just save it. And now the next thing that we are going to be adding in are going to be the fingerprints. So let me just put this over here. For the fingerprints, we are actually going to be using mega scans. So let's just go to bridge. Okay, so this is going to be the fingerprint pattern that I will be using. So we'll go to files, and here it is. I'll just drag it and drop it directly in, and let's give it a preview. Okay, this is where we might be needing the chaos texture. So I'll grab it, put it over here, and I'll just add in the chaos texture. Now, what is chaos texture? This is basically the Uber mapping node that Andrew Price made a long time ago for cycles. So yeah, it's basically like that. Now we need to mess around with these settings until we get a clean scene. Let's just add this, enable rotation. That actually clears up a lot of the things. And we could obviously just rotate it around just to find the right spot. Okay, so now what we are going to be doing is I'll just take this, put it over here, and the gamma should be 1. I'll add in a gradient map right after this, and I'll start to crunch it down. Just like that. And now if I directly plug it in towards our roughness, it's gonna look terrible. See? So how can we reduce the opacity while keeping this exact map? It, it's pretty simple. What we need to do is add in a mix texture. I'll just plug it in. And we are going to be adding in an RGB color. So let me just add that. And this is going to be totally black. And if you preview this, with the help of this slider, we could reduce the opacity of this whole map. And if we go into our render view, we'll have to reduce it a bit. And also about the scratches, we'll have to reduce them as well. So it's all about just tweaking it and trying to make the most realistic result possible. Hey, I'll just reduce the curl, the rotation, and the layer count should be 5. Okay, that looks far better. And if I just put it towards, okay, that looks better. And for the medium, I might just give it a bit more boost. Instead of 200, make it 250. I could go a bit more, 300, 400. Nah, 300 was good. And go, and I de-isolate it. Okay, okay, that looks pretty good. Now it's time for this part over here. Now we need to add a few scratches over here. So what I'm going to be doing is I'll just come back to our acrylic material over here. I'll copy it, come back towards the plastic nib, go Control V, and I'll just plug it in towards our bump over here. And minus 0.005. Because over here we actually want the textures to be visible. I mean scratches to be visible. And as we can see, they're totally off. Okay, that looks good. Okay, we got a few scratches going around over here. Now it's time to work on the metal parts of this render. So we are going to be selecting this and we'll add in a Cinema 4D noise. And if we connect this part over here and put it to Booyah, use 4D noise, and I'll expand the UV transform and the projection. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be turning it into a full circle. So this is stretching it like this. We don't need that. We actually want it to stretch like a circle. So 4.83830. And I'll just make it like this. And if we connect it back, I'll just plug it in towards our bump. Okay, we got that pattern. We could even increase it to, let's say, zero point 0.1. That's actually a bit too much. 0.5. Okay, that looks good. And let's just confirm if the scratches did work on this. Well, it actually did. Now it's time for the ball. Now, this is going to be pretty simple. What we are going to be doing is we're going to be putting some ink on it. And how we're going to be doing it with material layers. So, let's just make a new layer. And in layer 1, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be adding in a diffuse layer, which is going to be blue. And I'll just darken it down a bit. And we'll add in fractal noise. I'll just plug it in towards the opacity. And we will just scale it down a bit to somewhat like this. And what we are going to be doing is adding in a gradient map in the middle. Let's just add that. And now we are going to be playing around with it. We'll have to bump up the whites. And we'll have to scale it up a bit. Let's just deselect it for a second. We'll just select these two and isolate them because my PC is struggling. Let's increase the octaves. The distribution, no, we're not going to be touching that. Turbulence, yeah. Okay, we got that done. Now we are going to be adding in a sheen layer. And we are going to be giving it the same material. And now we are going to be adding in a specular layer. And for this, we are going to be giving it the same opacity map, just like that. And you know what? Instead of the diffuse, I think we should make it metallic. Let's plug it towards the opacity, just like that. And now we are going to be relighting it. For that, I'll go to my world settings. I'll put the power to 0. And while selecting our pen, I'll put my 3D cursor over here. Go to the top, add in our first light, which is going to be the area light. I'll press G, put the light over here, Shift T, and just point it over here. I'll press G again, move the light towards the side. Perfect. Now we need to add in a fill light over here. So what we are going to be doing is, if I go back towards the top view, I'll just duplicate it, G, move it around, Shift T, point it over here, and if I go to Object, first of all, I'll put the opacity to 0, and the power should be 20. Let's increase it a bit. 30. Okay, that looks better. And if we go into our camera view, I'll select the paper, just press it up a bit, just like that. And let's just save it. And now we are going to be adding in the depth of field. And just for your convenience, we actually already have an empty over here that we're going to be using. So I'll select our camera over here, scroll all the way down where it says autofocus. I'll turn that off and I'll select our tracker. Now, if we go to our aperture, I'll put it to not 1.9, put it to 2, 6. I'll put it to 5.5. Okay, 5.5 actually looks pretty good. I might do something about the roughness because it's getting a bit too hazy. So I'll just come back over here and just put it to 0.96. Now, the key to realism is subtleness. Everything should be subtle. Nothing should be overpowered. So let me just save it again and we'll come back to this material. I'll just move the paper a tad bit and you know what, I'll just scale it down as well. Just like that. And let's just save the file. And this looks a bit overexposed to me. So we'll just come over here and decrease it. That's one way. But yet again, we don't do it like that. So what we are going to be doing is we are getting overexposed just because of this light. So one option is that we could move it behind and push this closer a bit. That actually worked far better than I expected. So we are going to be moving along with that. And I'll bring back the roughness to this guy a bit again. A 0.95. Okay, that works. And I'll take the camera, take the tracker, put it towards the 3D cursor, and if I take the transformation pivot, put it to 3D cursor, and rotate my camera just a tad bit, that's far better. Okay, so before we render it out, there are a few settings that we need to keep in mind. Number one, we need to turn on the denoiser. Now we'll have to come over here towards our output. Now there are two methods. Either we could use the AOV nodes or directly export it from the compositor. I don't use the AOV nodes just because of my workflow, but what I'm going to be showing you is how I do it with the compositor. So we'll come over here towards our layer and in the denoiser, we'll click on beauty. We'll go to compositor. And if we see all of these and press render, we get the denoise beauty. So we'll just plug this in and wait for our render to complete. Alrighty, so we got our render done. So let's save it and take it into Photoshop. And when we are going to be saving it, we need to keep a few things in mind. So instead of getting a PNG, what we need to do is get an EXR. So let me just make an EXR and call it pen, and let's just save it. And now I'll just close it. Okay, so we got our render over here in Photoshop, but it looks completely off. Why? Because we're working in 32-bit color space. And this is the thing that we are going to be using for compositing for this specific render. Now, what I'm going to be doing is converting it into a smart object, and I'll go Control Shift and A. Now, you can use Affinity Photo or any sort of photo editing tool for this. Hell, you can even use PixArt for this. Now, we'll go to Basic. We'll bump up the exposure, increase the contrast, take the shadows and put it somewhere around over here. Take the blacks, and we just need to find the right spot for this. Now we'll increase the texture, the clarity, and dehaze, and we'll increase the vibrance. And I'll just turn down the exposure a bit. I'll put down the highlights, increase the whites, reduce the blacks a bit, because now the blacks are getting a bit too much. And coming down over here towards our effect, I'll add in just a touch of green. That's actually too much. 3 is going to be enough. We'll go to optics. I'll add in a touch of vignette. And yeah, now we need to add in our LUT. And I'll go to color lookup table. And over here, I'm going to be using the 35 strip look. And the last thing that I like to do with a lot of my art, what I'll be doing is going towards edit. I'll go towards image, canvas size, and put it to 1080. And if I just zoom out for a second, control click my image, I'll select this, press W, right click, select inverse, and make a new layer on top of it. Then take my brush, select my color to be total black, and just add in these anamorphic bars. We are basically done with this. But there's one thing that I might do. I'll just go back into my camera raw filter. This is the reason I made it into a smart object so that I could go back. I'll go to basic and just add in a touch of blue into it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are done with this exercise as well. Bonus content. Okay, so I redid the render with the help of my friend Saif over here in the Discord server. By the way, links in the description. I highly recommend you guys to join it because you're going to be finding amazing people who could help you out in all sort of situations possible. So this is what we made now. So I basically took the camera, zoomed it in a bit, and we just added a pen mark over here. So that's what we did over here. And let me just show you the setup for the pen mark we did. And it's pretty simple. What we did was we went into Photoshop and we drew out a black paper with some white markings, more like a signature. And we struck it through a gradient ramp, which is going into the opacity. And we just changed the color, reduced the specular, and bumped up the roughness. And that's it. We were done. Alrighty, since we're done with this course now, you might be asking yourself, what's the way moving forward? How can we make more amazing renders like this? Well, this YouTube channel is dedicated to Blender Octane and Blender Octane specifically. So, I also do live streams over here, which you guys can follow along and make the same quality animations that I make. And it's actually my mission to help you guys out because when I started out, no one was there for me. But for you, I'm gonna be there. And if you guys want like one on one with me, hell, you could always jump into the Discord server, links in the description. And a special announcement, I'm actually making another WhatsApp community as well for Blender Octane users. So, if you guys use WhatsApp and you want to join the community, the link's in the description as well. So, with that, God bless you all and your families. See you around. Bye.